Well, good day everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, we've had a cloudy week or so, and we're going to get even more rain coming up from the Baja into the southwest, so that's always welcome. Well, yesterday we had our type-in, October 12th type-in at the Taylor Ranch Library. This was a library on the west side of Albuquerque that we hadn't had events before, and it's a modern facility, a nice room. We had a turnout that wasn't super large turnout, but we expected that because the library is tucked away in a residential neighborhood of Taylor Ranch, and so those kind of neighborhood libraries typically don't get the traffic that more urban libraries might. I brought 3 electric typewriters and a total of 18 typewriters. And we had a few people that brought their own typewriters. So our friend Lori, she is a member of the Albuquerque Typewriter Society. She brought her typewriter. Actually, I have a Hermes Rocket that I've given her a long-term loan of. Technically, I've given it to her, but she thinks I've loaned it to her, so don't tell her. But so she came to write letters. She's an avid letter writer and zine maker. And then we had our friend Bill, who was my main helper, and he brought the early 1920s Remington Model 2. He brought his Hammond, and let's see, one other typewriter he brought, I forgot. Anyways, he brought some older typewriters. That's his forte. So we had 2 guests that were very interesting to me, and it's their experience that I'm really kind of talking to you about today. First of all, we had a lady who had first found our group in the August Albuquerque Museum event. This was the really highly successful event where hundreds of people came through, and she had a fun time trying out all the typewriters. So she came to yesterday's event with the idea of trying out all the typewriters and seeing what brand and model of typewriters she really likes, so then she knows what she can go shopping for, either online or at the local typewriter shop of John Lewis or wherever. So she tried all the typewriters, and I also wanted to make sure that she tried the electrics. So for the electrics, which I mentioned earlier, I brought the Royal Saturn, which is a Seiko-made electric. I brought the 5TE Smith Corona, and then I brought the SEM Electra 220. So the 220 is the 12-inch carriage with automatic carriage return. So she tried all those. She really gravitated toward manuals. She was interested in a small typewriter. I had some Seiko type machines. And then the other small portables I brought were German-made, which are a little heavier and a little harder touch also. But it turns out that she really liked the Hermes 3000. Of course she would, right? So that, for her, was a revelation, or at least was a confirmation of what she thought earlier. So now she knows what model and brand of typewriter that really she needs to go shopping for. And I think this is one lesson that I wanted to talk about, is the usefulness of type-ins is oftentimes for using it as a shopping experience. If you don't have other collectors in your area who you're friends with, if you don't have a typewriter shop in your immediate area that you can go to and check out their showroom, going to a type-in is a great way to shop for what kind of brand and model typewriter you want. Now, the other guest to the type-in was a young man, 18-year-old. His name is Michael, and he's a student going to a community college. And he brought his Remington Quiet Writer, which he uses to type notes for class. And he brought his tablet computer, and he had his computer set up, and he was transcribing class notes from online to a paper template that he had in the Quiet Writer. And I thought it was so cool to see this young guy who's not really, wouldn't really call him a typewriter collector. He only has one machine. He got it at a thrift store. It needs some work. In fact, we talked about it. He had a problem with the ribbon was erratically not printing very darkly, and I think there's some dry spots in the ribbon. I didn't have a replacement ribbon for him at that time, but in the meantime, I told him to set the color selector, the bichrome, to red, and that was at least gave him a consistently dark imprint on his machine. But I also encouraged him to walk around the room and try out as many of the other typewriters as he could. And it turns out he was attracted to the electric typewriter machines. He initially started out trying out the Blue Royal Saturn, the Seiko-made electric. He liked it, but that typewriter has fixed tabs every 10 spaces, and he needed tabs that are adjustable for his template. And then he tried the 5TE, and for some reason, I guess he didn't like it as much as what he ended up really liking was the Electra 220 Smith Corona Marchant SCM with the automatic carriage return. He was really typing fast. He enjoyed that really rapid carriage return. And of course, the key set tabulator worked great for his template. So I think the lesson there was he came with a manual typewriter, and we talked, by the way, we talked about we're going to get together when he has time and try to service his typewriter, clean it up, get it working better, get the ribbon replaced. There's a few problems it has, and he's unfamiliar with, typewriter maintenance, so it's a good opportunity to have an introductory session on typewriter maintenance. But he was surprised, I guess, that he came to the meeting with a manual typewriter and ended up really liking the electric. So there's another lesson there is don't come with preconceptions. If you're a novice to typewriters, you don't know what type of typewriter, what brand or model you really would like, you need to try them out first. Give it a chance, give them all a chance. Even, dare I say it, electronic daisy wheel typewriters. Give them a chance also. I thought it was a really good opportunity yesterday to have these novices coming through the type-in, using the collection that I brought of 18 typewriters, using that as an opportunity to shop around for your preferred typewriter, brand, model, and type. And this gets to the topic of, okay, if you're a novice and you really want to get into typewriters and writing with a typewriter, how do you do that? Well, first of all, you might not have a typewriter shop in your city or even your state. So you might have to do some online research. Look at the typewriter blogs. Especially helpful are the Facebook typewriter groups, although you may not be on Facebook. But if there's somebody in your area or in a neighboring city who is having a type-in, a public typewriter gathering, that's a really good opportunity to shop around for the preferred brand and model and type of machine you want. And once you think you've found what that model is, you have two choices, one of which is to try shopping around online and buy a used machine as is. Now, if you think you are a tinkerer, you're handy with your hands, and you have the aptitude to learn how to service machines or whatever, that's one way to go. But a lot of you are creative people who don't want the hobby of being a typewriter maintenance guy. You just want a machine that works. It's not for everybody. Like, if you had to buy a used car, would you want to have to fix up a car first, or would you rather just buy a used car that works, right? It depends on your personality, what your skill set is, what you're comfortable with, and what you have time to do and the space to do it in. One option is to buy, but again, there's a risk in the machine's condition was misrepresented or not properly represented by the seller, and most importantly, they can often get damaged in shipping. There's always a risk, and even if they do arrive in relatively good condition and not damaged in shipping, they're going to need service. They generally don't work out of the box because they've been sitting around and they need to be degreased and cleaned and properly serviced and to put a new ribbon in, etc. So you might have to bring it to a shop anyways, depending on your aptitude and your skills and your comfort level with learning a new skill. So this brings to mind the other option, which is if you want a typewriter and you know what brand and model it is, and if you don't have a typewriter shop in your area, you can shop around online. There are a number of reputable typewriter shops across the United States who will ship typewriters to you. And you can shop around on their websites, you can call them up, you can talk to them in person, you can tell them what you want, you can even put a lookout for, if you get this machine, can you service it and let me know and I'll buy it from you. And these typewriter shops are usually really good about knowing how to properly pack and ship a typewriter safely. So you can shop virtually, you can shop online at a distant typewriter shop. Hey, there's a jet. And shopping for a typewriter, you can get one, and you might have to, that might be the only option you have, because the chances of finding the brand and exact model and even the color you want just in happenstance on eBay or wherever might not be that easy to find, especially at a decent price with a reputable seller who might pack it properly, safely for shipping. So I always try to push people toward the idea, if you want a typewriter just to be a writer, just to enjoy the writing experience directly to paper, and you don't want to be a tinkerer hobbyist, it's worth it to spend the extra money to buy a machine that's already been serviced by a professional. Unless you want to start a typewriter hobby and learn how to do that for yourself. But oftentimes buying online, you're not saving that much money, especially if the machine comes to you broken or in bad enough condition that you have to get it serviced professionally anyways. So that's my recommendation, and this gets back to the whole thing of what is the usefulness of type-ins. Well, this is one of the things that's really useful about type-ins. It's an opportunity to shop around with a wide variety of machines available and see what you really like. Don't have any preconceptions, because you might discover you really like, for instance, electrics or giant desktop standard typewriters or whatever. Well, those are my thoughts today after we had a nice type-in at the Taylor Ranch Library. And if you are a typewriter collector with a number of typewriters, I would advise you to go ahead and start doing type-ins in your area. The great resource I found is public libraries. They have meeting rooms. Typewriters are literary adjacent, and in our area, certainly the library staffs are always really enthusiastic about hosting us. So look for that as a way to start doing type-ins in your area. And as always, I will close with my usual closure. Stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.